Welcome to the lighter side of the spectrum, the podcast that celebrates the multiple hats we wear and the juggling acts we perform in life. Whether you're parenting kids and teens on the autism spectrum, navigating the ever-evolving healthcare industry, or building a more inclusive and impactful world, this is your space to find connection, inspiration, and growth. Together, we'll share stories, tackle challenges, and explore how innovation and inclusion create better outcomes for everyone. Because no matter the spectrum, there's always a lighter side. Now here's your host, David Kaufer.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the lighter side of the spectrum. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll notice something a little different with my background. I am on Orcas Island, which is part of the San Juan Islands off the coast of Washington. We have our little getaway, a condo here. It's a beautiful spot, as you can see. It's a little chilly this morning. We're recording this I don't know, about 9:15 on a cool March morning. So I'm bundled up, but it's beautiful. I love being here. And I'm here with my friend and producer, Dave Yas. We're going to do kind of a special episode today. Dave, welcome to Orcas Island.
It looks lovely from what I can see, and I'll assume that the rest of the island is just as such, but jealous that you're out and about in the wild, but I'm probably not jealous of the temperature. I don't know. Here on the East Coast, we're finally getting some warmth, although not a ton, to be honest. But it's opening day. You're a baseball guy. Happy baseball season.
Well, thanks. Our opening day, my Giants opening day, unfortunately was yesterday. No one told them apparently because they just did not show up. They had their worst opening day loss in over 100 years. But for the rest of baseball community, I'm happy.
Right.
Go Mariners. Right. Like I'm officially a Mariners fan today. And
right. Yeah.
Hope springs eternal on opening day, right?
Yes. And I was just happened to be exchanging messages on Facebook with a writer named Noah Gattal, who wrote this great book about baseball and movies. But anyway, he's predicting the Mariners win it all this year. And I said, I'll root for the Mariners to be sure, because it hurts when your franchise's greatest memory was, however exciting walk-off double by Edgar Martinez. It was in 1995, and they're due.
Right in a divisional playoff game.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
Fun fact, Dave, I was at that game.
Really? Well, that's kind of a cool claim to fame. I mean, it was an amazing moment. It just wasn't the World Series. Yeah.
It wasn't the World Series. You're right. It is, and it is kind of sad. Yeah, I was there. I bought tickets from a scalper, and I was sitting there in the upper deck, full view of everything unfolding in front of us.
That's
definitely awesome. Between that, I'm lucky enough. Again, quick side note. That, and also I was at Candlestick Park for the catch. I don't know if I ever told you that when I was in high school.
All right, pardon me for being East Coast centered, but what catch are we referring to?
Catch? Oh my God, Dave, come on, Montana, Dwight Clark.
Oh, okay. I was thinking baseball because they used to play.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't make the transition. The sports transition
because they used to play in Candlestick, right? The Giants did as well, right? So, of course, I know what the catch is. Dwight Clark.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I was there as well. So I'm lucky enough to have a couple of
two amazing ones. Yep.
Pretty cool memories. But we're not here to talk about sports. That's going to be the other podcast. That's still on my list for us to launch at someday, Dave.
Yes.
We're here to talk about autism. And what I thought we could do is really kind of talk about some of the developments that are happening kind of outside of the conversations that we're having here, because there's a lot happening.
Mm-hmm.
Some good, some not so good, but things that I think that our listeners and viewers should know about or would be interested in knowing about. But I want to start off on a positive note, and that is a really nice message I got actually on LinkedIn from a listener / viewer that I thought I would share, because I love these messages. They totally light me up. They motivate me. They energize me. And they really kind of show what this is all about. So he said, "Hey, David, I just want to connect. I've enjoyed Diving into the podcast, my daughter Olivia is 10 and a non-speaker. We began our S2C journey about a year ago. She's currently on the 3 boards, and we're working hard on building her motor for those purposeful pokes. The biggest shift has been truly presuming competence and shifting my view of autism to one of sensory motor differences and not behavioral deficits. So much so that I recently ended our 8-year relationship with our ABA provider. 8 years. Just wanted to shake the ABA vibes off so we can focus on S2C and other therapies that will help our nervous system and ours for that matter. I could go on and on, but sincerely, hearing real stories of non-speakers like Stone who are a little further along this journey has made all the difference. Inspiration is the closest word I can think of, but it feels bigger than that. Living the presuming competence spelling lifestyle alone has made such a difference for Olivia and us. All the best, Jeremy. And that comes from Jeremy McDonald via LinkedIn.
Thank you, Jeremy. That's a great one. And it's a great example of why you do the show, is because we've talked about it many times. When your child gets diagnosed with autism, there's just, yes, it's bewildering. Yes, it's potentially soul crushing, but it's also just confusing. Like, where do I go first? And if you get on the ABA channel and no one tells you any different, you might think, yeah, okay, I guess ABA, I guess it's working. I don't know. And that there are alternatives like spelling to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's, like I said, it's just heartwarming to receive that. And just to see again that the message of presuming competence is resonating, that parents are understanding it and embracing it. It's something that we've had to kind of deprogram ourselves over the years with that. So
right.
Thank you again, Jeremy, and others. Keep it coming. I love the feedback. David.Kaufer at hey.com if you are so inclined.
It's HEY.com, David.Kaufer at HEY.com.
Yes,
I don't want to think it's like hay is for horses, you know.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
So something else that's going on that I wanted to talk about, because this literally just, it's been going on for a while, but there's just some updates this week. And that is in New York State, they've been working on state legislation to pass a communication rights bill. And the context of the bill is pretty straightforward, as you can imagine. It's basically to recognize the rights of all people and their method of communication, no matter what it is, right? It could be AAC device, it could be sign language, or in our case, it could be communication with a CRP, a communication partner. And it passed the state house last summer, I want to say. And I don't know if they just ran out of time or why it didn't advance to the Senate. But for the most recent session, it did advance to the to the Senate. And, they've been hoping for it to pass, obviously, and to go to the governor for signature. So there's been a lot of waiting, a lot of lobbying on a lot of sides, which is kind of crazy, first of all, that there'd be lobbying against this, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean,
who's talking about out? It would be ironic, speaking out against communication rights. It just sounds silly.
Yeah, it just sounds silly.
Mm-hmm.
But
there's a nuance, going on, right?
Yeah. And there was a twist this week. And so my understanding, and again, I'm not going to pretend like I have all the facts 100% right, but I think I've got them pretty right, just in terms of being in conversations and following this online. But the chair of the Disability Committee in the New York State Senate had been holding it up for whatever reason, hadn't been bringing it to a vote. So non-speaker families and allies have been pressuring her to say, hey, let's bring it to a vote. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, earlier this week, we learned that the legislation was changed. They actually inserted language into it that would not be good for non-speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the language, which was, by our understanding, again, requested by those opponents, which we assume to be ASHA and others, said that that the communication had to be, and I think one of the terms was validated.
Right.
And validated, and I think autonomous was the other one. So completely independent, right? Like these are the two caveats that they're throwing into a bill that's supposed to be about communication rights. And the senator, by the way, I want to call her out by name because there's still time for her to do the right thing, you know. And essentially, this is like a poison pill, right? Because it does the opposite. By inserting this language, it basically does the opposite of what a communications right bill is supposed to be. The senator is Senator Patricia Fahy, Fahy, in New York. And we need to change that. We need people, if you're in New York, you need to contact your representative or contact Fahy's office and ask to get this language removed. Like that, because it's that simple.
Because what it does in effect is limit the modes of communication permitted by the bill, which again, it sounds counterintuitive in a bill that's supposed to provide rights to so-called validated methods of communication, which, and we were talking about this before we started recording, is going to come down to whatever the insurance industry says is an acceptable form of communication?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the definition of valid, as I understand it. Because the question is, what's considered valid or, validated in this context? And you have to have an insurance code, basically, which, spelling to communication, RPM, a lot of these motor-based communication methodologies don't yet because they haven't been accepted by insurance companies, because insurance companies resist, obviously, for a lot of reasons. And there's also lobbying against this by the institutions, by ASHA, ABA industry with insurance company. So what they're doing is they're protecting their monopolies is what they're doing, Dave. I mean, let's be clear.
I'm reading from nysenate.gov, and take this for what it's worth, because all this stuff can get confusing, multiple versions of the same bill. But it says an earlier version of the bill defined validated in detail, tying it to methods accepted by professional organizations and excluding certain controversial methods. Now, I don't have the backup to that, but we can guess what that means, and it's probably the worst of all options. A later version still uses validated but removes a definition. That's probably the version you're talking about, which is still troubling because of what validated comes down to. It says in the most recent amended version, in some sections, it drops validated entirely. That's what we would like, but it's unclear to me whether the rest of the bill is consistent. So you may have what happens all the time, which is a bill that fights against itself, and then who knows how it shakes out. You might have to go to the courts. So I wish it were simpler, and I wish it was just providing rights.
It should be that simple, right? And right. I want to read something because one of the moms who's fighting hard in New York State and doing a wonderful job of kind of keeping the rest of us up to date on developments and, and just kind of calling out. And she's just very articulate. Her name is Heather Ash Burrows. Heather, hello. I hope you're listening out there. I know we've had conversations. We're also working together. We're part of a committee that I wanted to talk about that's actually launching a communication is a human right campaign among prolific social media users within our community, Dave, to coincide with Autism Acceptance and Awareness Month coming up. She's part of that. But let me just find the spot. Okay, so she says, so yes, people are upset, and they should be, because we will be damned if after finally finding something that helps our children access their voice, we let people who do not live this life make it harder to use. The Communication Bill of Rights was written to expand access. It was written to protect a person's ability to be heard. And your amendments reverse this intent. Your version actually blocks access. Senator Fahy, we are asking you to take another look. Listen to the families, listen to the non-speaking people. Look at what is working in real lives, not just what systems are comfortable approving. you still have the opportunity to get this right. Reverse your amendment on S7792.
Better than we could have said it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, like I said, I wanted to get that out there because this is important, because our hope obviously is that this would be the first of many such state bills that can sweep across the country. But it will be a lot more difficult if we have this kind of opposition or language in the bill in a state such as New York. So do your thing, people. Let's do what we can. Use your voice. Get out there.
Let's do it. Come on.
Let's do it. So moving on, again, kind of on the brighter side, this is interesting. So again, listeners, viewers know that we had Dr. Barry present on here not long ago.
Mhm.
And we had mentioned on there that also I had been on Barry's podcast, Uniquely Human, a few weeks earlier, and we talked and debunked the message passing test, among other topics, quite a bit on there.
Mhm.
Now, what's fun is one of the individuals who Barry had identified as a skeptic, I call a hater,
Right.
has been at this for a long time, is a paid consultant, a paid expert witness against non-speakers with school districts primarily. And she's been writing a blog, and she featured me in her blog.
Excellent.
And Barry. Yeah. So she came out against it with a blog post, basically complaining that I called her a hater, and just kind of using a lot of the same tired arguments that they've been using for years, right?
Yep.
Trying to defend the message passing test and some of the other worn out messages that just frankly don't hold up anymore. But as I said, on my Substack today and on Facebook, said, you've really made it, Dave. When when you're officially named, when you're called out by name, by the opposition.
Well, you got our attention, and that's what we wanted, right?
Yeah, we want attention.
Yep.
Yeah, the more the better, and
Sure.
that's why we're doing this. That's
right.
That's what it's all about. So elsewhere in the news, the world of autism, and again, this is one of those kind of good news, bad news developments we had talked about ahead of time. And that's talking about a number of states, including Washington State, now are officially banning the use of seclusion rooms and restraint methods in schools. So they will no longer be allowed.
Thank goodness. It's about time. Now, for those that don't know, are they what they sound like?
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, this is something that's been in use in many, I don't know if even most states, to a certain degree, where they are literally what they sound like, seclusion rooms. Kids are locked into the rooms alone in situations that are supposed to be when they are potentially a danger to themselves or a danger to staff or students, when kids get dysregulated, which often happens. This is supposed to be the way to solve it. Someone decided this, ignorance was even more rampant than it is today. It's just like, oh, well, they're acting out. This is a behavior. We need to do something to address this behavior. We're going to teach them a lesson. And we're going to lock them up.
Right.
And not only lock them up, again, there's the seclusion part, but there's the restraint. This part's even more awful, right? Where students have been tackled. I mean, anything you can imagine. I mean, I've read horror stories, Dave, in terms of case studies and reports from parents, broken bones, right? Things that have happened to kids in these situations. And we know that there are difficult situations at school. We know the kids get dysregulated. We know some of the kids are big, but it doesn't address the root of the issue. Why are they becoming dysregulated? Getting back to like Dr. Brizant, it's really digging into the whys. addressing those, and also understanding that there's studies that have come out, recent studies that have shown the really awful impact, as you can imagine, that these seclusion rooms have on kids who have been subjected to them. We're talking about real PTSD type of stuff that lasts for years.
I can only imagine. I mean, I'm claustrophobic myself. The very thought of it makes my skin crawl. But I mean, to be clear, there are going to be moments where someone with special needs could pose a danger to someone or themselves, and in those instances, they need to do what they need to do. But what's so disturbing about these is the seclusion rooms being used as quote unquote either treatment or quote unquote punishment, both of which are disturbing. Like, it's not
right.
It's one thing if it's your only option. Like, I can see that. I think we can concede that, can't we? If it's a moment where you just have to get someone out of danger, but that's not what these are, right?
Yeah, I think those moments are few and far between. For
sure,
relatively speaking, right?
Oh, yeah,
And again, part of the problem with having these even in place, having these even as an option, and I want to be clear, we're not talking about timeout rooms.
Right.
We're not talking about sensory friendly rooms, which have become a trend the last 10 or so years, which is great, right? These are truly used to take a student who may be dysregulated, who may need just time out, literally just, to deal with the sensory overload, something they may have, but they go in there with a paraeducator or with a teacher. They're coached through it. They're allowed to dysregulate, calm down, right? Like, there's a whole purpose to that. Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, that's a productive use of space in that context. This isn't that. This is locking him in a room alone,
right,
and abandoning them,
right,
for who knows how long. And again, it was totally at the discretion of the person who has access to that room.
Yep.
So, like I said, it's slowly going away. There were a number of states, as I mentioned, including Washington State, that have passed laws. I think it's one of those things, again, as you pull back the curtain, as more people become aware of some of these things that have been going on, it's kind of like, what the hell? Really? People are just, this needs to change.
How is this considered normal? Yeah.
How is this considered normal? Yeah. So good news there. I in my book, that's happening. Now, you had something, right, that you wanted to hear.
So something out of Washington, and unsurprising to listeners of this podcast, the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said something that wasn't quite true and accurate about autism. So the president and RFK Jr. Are promoting this drug, or were promoting this drug, Leucovorin. I think I've got that right.
I honestly don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Leucovorin, a vitamin B derived drug. They suggest it could help a large percentage of autistic children, even calling it a breakthrough. So what happened was, all of a sudden there's a spike in prescription for these because, autism parents, like you and I have said, we'll try anything. You probably should have considered the source in this case. So this month, the FDA walked back those claims and approved the drug only for one rare condition called cerebral folate deficiency. And cerebral folate deficiency, as it turns out, can cause symptoms that sometimes resemble autism, but is not autism itself. So there you go. I think the FDA got it right. There's little evidence that Leucovorin helps autism broadly, but at least we got this cleared up in a hurry.
No, I mean, there's a lot, as is the case with a lot of these supplements, medications, biomedical treatments. You hear a little bit of everything. Again, right. I'm pretty immersed in the community. I've seen posts from those who have sworn by it. They said that they have seen improvement with their children when they've secured prescriptions for it and gotten them on it. I've seen posts from other parents that said it's done absolutely nothing for their kids, which again isn't surprising.
Yeah.
There's so much diversity in this population, and you just don't know. You don't know what's going to work and what isn't. I think the danger again is making a broad, sweeping claim that this could help many or help most or anything like that. And getting back again to the language, which is something that we'll continue to talk about here. As far as fixing autism, curing autism, right? Like that's the part I'm just going to continue to push back on.
Yeah, no, and it's particularly despicable when you consider the state of mind that many parents of kids with autism are in, and particularly if they've been diagnosed recently and you don't know, and it's false hope. We have to be skeptical about those selling, if they're selling some kind of cure-all for autism. Everything that's been labeled that to date has been wildly incorrect. So we need to take these things with a grain of salt. But I agree with you. It's not a lot of there are meds that certainly help people with autism.
Yeah.
But it's really the autism doesn't go away. So it
helps aspects of it. And,
right.
And you're right. It's false hope. And it's also kind of a distraction when you have the president and the head of the HHS specifically pointing to this, right?
Yeah.
As we've talked about also, is that by doing this, they have parents try to focus on these so-called cures or, treatments rather than services that will actually help them.
Right. Because there's so much more we could be doing there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we're not, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. Services are getting cut. They're doing less for this population, not more, in spite of what people think. And along those lines, another development, actually, I was going to mention, Dave, you're going to find this interesting because we haven't talked about this, and I don't think so. I'll post. But so there's a federal interagency autism coordinating committee, or IACC, that's appointed by the secretary of the HHS, right? And their charter is to coordinate roughly $2 billion in annual federal research funding. And they also advise the HHS secretary on research priorities and services. Okay, this is something that's been in place for a number of years. So a couple of months ago, I want to say late January, RFK Jr. announced the new members. He replaced all of the previous members, which is, so you imagine, unprecedented. They had to have usually some type of continuity. Nope. Totally replaced them with a group that, again, unsurprisingly, was very friendly towards his point of view regarding the impact of vaccines and autism. Heavily stacked with those who have been publicly on the record questioning vaccines and their ties to autism. Now, on the positive side, and within our community, there was a lot of excitement because two of the committee members are actually non-speaking autistic members.
Wow.
Which is great. One of them, Elizabeth Bonker. Yeah, Elizabeth Bonker, who's an absolute rock star, leading the charge in terms of being a non-speaking advocate. She and her mom are behind the nonprofit Communication for All, which is doing some great work. And Caden Larson is the other non-speaking autistic. So great. It's nice to have representation on the committee, but previously there were 7 autistic members on the committee.
Wow.
And now there's 2. So there's actually less representation.
We're going in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just double checking my notes here. Yeah. Previously there were 7 autistic adults, and now we have 2. And they're supposed to be, I think there's a minimum number of 5. Anyway, it's not being met. But here's the other interesting thing about the committee is they were supposed to have their first meeting 2 weeks ago, I believe. Earlier this month, it was announced that meeting was going to be postponed indefinitely. No explanation given. So it's on hold. In the meantime, a group of scientists, including those who used to be on the committee, former NIH leaders and other advocacy figures, they formed their own new independent autism coordinating committee, which is basically a shadow committee that they created because they don't trust what the official one is doing or is going to do.
Right.
And they're saying that they want to preserve a science-based autism research agenda and respond quickly to recommendations that are not supported by evidence. So you have a federal autism committee that was appointed, again, totally swept clean,
Right.
with a meeting canceled, no new meeting. And then you have this shadow committee made up of scientists. Now, the one thing that we've seen, most of the scientists are respected. The one thing that this shadow committee also hasn't done is really represented the autism community in terms of what we've seen so far, in terms of their initial committee members. I believe there's one scientist who's identified as autistic. But beyond him, there aren't any other members that are autistic. And, that needs to change, right? I mean, there needs to be more representation, especially when we're talking about things that are going to impact the community. It's the whole nothing about us without us.
Yeah, for sure.
It should be a given, right? It should be a given. But yeah, what do you make of that, Dave? Just again, as you hear it for the first time.
Well, it's just, the parade never ends of people appointed for political reasons that have no expertise in the area in which they're supposed to be governing in. And I can understand maybe a committee member or two who is put there as sort of a project manager or something because they're just good at getting things done. And so maybe sometimes people who don't know that much about autism can be effective in moving things forward. But man, I mean, I just don't get the mentality of, and unfortunately it's pervasive in politics on both sides of the aisle, is that everyone is so concerned with quote unquote winning in whatever definition you apply that to, winning re-election, and putting people in positions as political chits rather than for the plain reason of getting things done. And it's, I mean, imagine if you ran a company that way, imagine if.
Right, exactly.
Imagine if, when Steve Jobs started Apple, it'd be like, well, all the VPs that report to me, they need to be people who I owe favors to and people that I like rather than people that know how to create things. And so it's just mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling, but I think that's a really good point. It happens to a small degree in the corporate world. And, again, in the real world, we see, some. Right. I mean, there's, whatever you want to call it, backroom deals, and there's relationships are important, all that. I mean, that's not what we're talking about, though.
Right.
Because like you said, you can't run a company effectively. You couldn't get things done if that was your standard method, your standard mode of operation.
Yeah. And this is a health and safety issue and a wellness issue, call it whatever you will. Imagine if you staffed a hospital using such standards,
right. Right.
And you want somebody operating on you that has been studying medicine for their entire career, or someone that is relatively new to it, but he's a good guy. We're gonna give him a try at heart surgery, and it's not big a leap.
He has some interesting thoughts. He has some interesting ideas.
Right.
Come on, you gotta listen to it. Be open-minded. Do your own research.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think this is great in terms of being able to talk about some of these things, because there's so much obviously going on kind of in the real world, obviously in politics and all these things swirling around, that it's really hard to keep track of some of these developments. And, I think that's an opportunity that we have to do that for the community, and we also know that, again, parents are busy, super overwhelmed. They don't have time to read, what's going on. And, they may or may not care. I think it's important. Like I said, I try to approach this, Dave, from the standpoint of, turning back the clock, as we talked about when we were younger parents, when our kids were younger, what are some of the things I wish I knew or
Right.
learned about, and the whole thing, like, here's information, do with it what you want, right? I want to just put it out there for people just to be aware. So much of it just is in the shadows, or you just don't have time to take it all in.
Yeah. And, I remember, again, like you said, when we were young parents, I wish we were still young parents. Not really anymore.
Yeah, right.
We're still parents, but just not young anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there in that era. There was so much. I mean, one thing that it's nice to remind ourselves is we're in so much better spot, at least in terms of awareness, than we were, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Take your pick. And so, but your podcast and other channels like it, you need to continue to push these things forward because the misinformation sadly isn't going away. Sometimes I feel like you're playing Jon Stewart, who when he did his original Comedy Central show, The Daily Show, when he originally signed off, he said something like, and you pardon the language, but we must not give in to the powers of Bullshit Mountain. We have to continue to fight against Bullshit Mountain, and there's some of that here too.
There's a little bit of that kind of whack-a-mole feeling.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
Kind of nonstop where you're just like, oh,
you kill one and here's another one.
Something else popped up. Well, I do have, we could do one of our segments today, Dave.
Oh, sure. I'm ready if you are.
Yeah, we're gonna do our parent confession today, because I have something that happened recently that I want to share with our audience.
Well, we got to roll the jingle.
Morning routines can go astray. Found socks in the fridge one day. Laughter's the best remedy. Hey, we're just finding our own way. Mom, Dad, confessions every week. Sharing joys and moments we seek. Honest tales that make us unique. Join the club, we're never meet.
I have one too, but let's hear you first.
Oh, great. Awesome. All right.
Sure.
So, as audience knows, this is a chance where we get to reveal something that shows our human side. We're not perfect parents. We're not perfect people. And I think it's important to remember that because things still happen all the time. I know that there are probably some people out there that's like, oh, wow, Kaufer's, doing all these things. What a great dad. And I love that. I take pride in it, but man, I still screw up. And, a week ago, we were scheduled to have virtual classes with Stone. This is typical part of our schedule. It's like 10:30 and 11:30 classes on Thursday. Okay. So I took a shower about 10 or so, came out of the shower, was getting dressed. Our other son, Ty, is home for spring break. And he came in and just said, hey, and Stone had been in his room, which is typical. He likes to hang out, just kind of have alone time. Mm-hmm. And Ty said, hey, Dad, I'm not sure if Stone's okay. I heard him coughing or something, but I don't know if he was coughing or maybe throwing up. I don't know. And so I said, well, I'd heard him coughing earlier. There'd been a cold that's gone around. I'm still kind of got a little bit of the cough. But anyway, I said, well, he's been coughing this morning. I'm not worried, whatever. Right. So I go to the office setting up for class, and, I leading up to class, kind of yell through the door a couple of times, all typical stuff. Hey, Stone, class is in 10 minutes. And I kind of hear this, which is kind of normal, right? Like, just like, oh, I'll be there. Right. I mean, it's all normal.
Right.
As class is starting, it's like 10:30. I'm like, come on, Stone, let's go. It's time for class. And I hear him kind of stumble out of his room, go into the bathroom, which is just adjacent to the office, right behind us, and start vomiting.
Oh, man.
And so of course, and this is right when I'm starting class with the teacher, right? So you've got the Zoom going, I'll be right back. And
right.
Just chaos, right? And I go in, he's throwing up. I'm like, what's wrong? Like, cancel, I had to stop the class, go in, and then I had to look in his bedroom, vomit everywhere in bed.
Oh, no.
He'd been sitting there in his bed for who knows how long, right? And I was just like, Stone, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? How can you be sitting here? Let's take a shower. I was upset. I was yelling at him, which I hate to admit. I was so caught up in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, it was just chaotic and I was just trying to deal with it. And so we got him showered. And then David struck me because this has happened before. You know about Stone's seizures.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a couple of times before where he had a seizure and then he threw up afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him, I said, what happened? He said he had a very small seizure, so small that we didn't hear it, which typically we would if it's one of those kind of strong, violent ones.
Right.
It was small enough that he knew he was having it, he's been able to suppress them. But it was enough that it triggered him throwing up because he had eaten a bunch of crap. Also, that's the other thing. I thought, oh, he ate too much crap this morning. This is why he's throwing up. But it was actually the seizure. And so I felt like crap myself after realizing that. He and I talked about it. I apologized profusely. He said he understood. He knew he said, I know it was chaotic with class and you didn't know what's going on, as understanding as he always is. But lesson learned, right? Again, as far as jumping to conclusions in those moments is so easy to do. Even today, even knowing what I know.
We're gonna let you off the hook for that one because it's a distressing moment. Never mind that Stone is on the autism spectrum. For any parent, there's vomit, there's chaos. Adrian has this thing that I have as well, which is, I'm trying not to get too gross and clinical, but it's like an acid reflux thing that happens. I get it when my allergies are bad, and all of a sudden it'll feel like it's always when I'm eating, and it'll feel like something's kind of stuck in my throat, and it's like, and basically you got to go to the bathroom and hack it up.
You got to take care of Freya. I hear you.
Yeah. And so to my dismay, I discovered Adrian has the exact same thing I have. It doesn't happen that often, but it happened once to him when he was just sitting on the couch. And I said, Adrian, get into the bathroom. And he looked at me like he was confused. He was just kind of stunned as to what was happening. And so he puked not a ton, but enough that there was a cleanup involved. And I was screaming at him. And I know it's almost similar to yours. I was screaming because I was just reacting like, this is a fixable problem. Get in the bathroom now. But the poor guy, he was in his own state, whatever. He's trying to figure out why he's puking. Maybe he wasn't even like processing what I was saying. So I apologized to him afterwards. So we have our moments. We let you off the hook. It's why we have mom and dad confessions.
Exactly.
The one I was going to add is kind of I don't know if it's a good news, bad news thing, but my confession is that sometimes, because Adrian likes to leave things early, I use it as a convenient way of leaving things early that I'd like to leave. So oftentimes that's a bad movie. Usually it's like, well, you paid the however much it costs to go to the movies these days. It's a lot. You should stay for the whole movie. If the movie's no good and Adrian wants to leave, we leave the movie and we're perfectly happy. The flip side of that, sort of kind of a related story. You've already heard the story, so I'm going to give you the listeners haven't, but I'll give you I'll give everyone the brief version of it. I decided to take Adrian to a Duran tribute show. The name of the band is the name of the band is Double Duran, and I always have to watch these things carefully because Adrian likes, given his druthers, Adrian would go to bed at 7:30 every night. He loves to go to bed. And so the show starts at 7:30, so he's not going to, obviously, I told him about that, but I know we're not going to last for the whole show. So in this case, it was a bummer for me because I love Duran, and it was a pretty good tribute show. But the I don't know, the karmic gods shined upon us because the band, two of the key members of the band before the show noticed Adrian and noticed that he marched to his own beat and came over and started chatting him up and asking him what his favorite Duran songs were. I got in touch, long story short, I got in touch with the band later, and it turns out the lead singer has a child on the spectrum who is non-speaking, and undoubtedly that's why. And in the middle of the show, he launched into Save a Prayer, the Duran song, and said, Adrian, this one's for you. And so I was super moved, and I'm going to stay in touch with them. But if you're interested in the band, it's doubleduran.com. They play pretty much all over the country. So And
and we're talking about maybe getting him on
Sure.
the pod.
Yep.
I think that would be really fascinating.
I'll make it happen.
That'd be a great guest.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, all right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for this week, this edition. Like I said, we'll try to do this, I think, on the last week of the month for listeners, again, to try to catch up on some of the developments, have a chance for us to chat and talk as autism dads. But thank you again to everyone for listening, for supporting, for reaching out, leaving reviews. You mean the world to me. And so until next week, from Orcas Island, this is David Kaufer. Dave Yas from Boston saying, see you next time.